Okay, so I was kind of sitting down here wondering what other things can we do on the channel to keep you guys intrigued, to have you guys come back over and over again for fresh comic stories. And we do have our coverage over Nightfall and also over the X-Men, but I want something else out there as well. And then I realized that you guys truly love the idea where we sit down and do a character profile over a certain villain in Marvel Comics. Like, for example, we did Rhino for a good while there. And I want to continue that. But either way, I went around and said, what other bad guys can we do in the world of Marvel Comics who need some love? Because, of course, you have some fans out there who love a certain character who does not get a lot of love in current time of comics. And so I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and do a playlist over Shocker. Because when I was growing up, originally, Shocker was a top bad guy for Spider Man. And then over time, he kind of fell off. And so I want to go over some stories of Shocker to show that he can still be a great villain if a writer can use him correctly. And so today, we're going to cover his first appearance ever in Marvel Comics, and that would be The Amazing Spider Man issue number 46. Now, I want you guys to know that today's video might be a tad bit short because, well, it's only a one shot and only a few things happen in this storyline, but I still want to cover it for folks out there who want to know more about Shocker. Either way, when it comes to Peter Parker, he's out there being Spider-Man at the moment. Now, as you see on the screen right now, his arm is kind of on a sling. And the reason why, because in a previous story arc, he fought against the Lizard and his arm got injured. But either way, you have Spider-Man just going around town until he lands on a building, and when he does, he realizes that the entire building is beginning to shake. Now, this leads into his first meeting with the Shocker. Now, for the Shocker, he does not have actual powers. Instead, he uses these gloves that are able to release very strong, violent vibrations towards his targets. And so, for Shocker, being a new bad guy for Spider Man, of course, he has to win the first battle. Now, for the Shocker, we do learn like he's your basic bad guy. He's trying to go ahead and rob a bank and being able to get the money that he wanted from the bank. Now, for Spider Man, he's trying his best to fight against the Shocker. But the problem is for Spider Man is that, well, he's still somewhat injured. He only has one arm free to use in this battle. And so, after a few pages, you do have the Shocker being able to easily defeat Spider Man. And of course, get away with the money he had just took from the bank. Now for Peter, he's kind of hoping next time he sees the Shocker that he will be able to use his arm to hopefully defeat the Shocker in their next battle. But you didn't have Peter go ahead and change into his regular Peter Parker clothes. Now while doing that, he's then confronted by Harry Osborn. Now, this leads into the whole process of Harry and Peter becoming roommates, living together in an apartment, because you have Harry tell Peter that Norman Osborn is going to go ahead and buy Harry an apartment, but it has two rooms. And so for Harry, he would love the idea to share that new place with Peter Parker. Now for Peter, he is down like no other, but the problem is that he's afraid to leave Aunt May alone. And so you have Harry tell Peter, go talk to your aunt and see if she'll be okay with the idea of you moving out. But after that, you then have Peter Parker go over to the Daily Bugle, where you get your usual scene. You got Peter Parker walking in with some photos of Spider-Man, but this time fighting against the Shocker. And of course, you have JJ being very happy with the photos, and Peter leaves. Now, while Peter is leaving, he does walk by a character known as Frederick Boswell. Now, for Frederick, he's actually a criminal, better known as the Big Man, but he's also a reporter for the Daily Bugle. Now, for Frederick, he's always trying his best to figure out what in the world is Peter Parker's connection to Spider-Man. How in the world is Peter able to get all these good photos of Spider-Man? And so once again, you have Frederick say, you know what? Let me go ahead and tell Peter, but make sure he cannot tell that he is being told by me to hopefully figure out how in the world is he able to get the photos of Spider-Man. But now we have to jump over to the Shocker, and we begin the process of us learning about the origin of the Shocker. Now, we do learn that the dude was just your regular thief. Unfortunately, the dude always got caught being out there as a thief, but then he vowed that he would never ever be caught ever again. And so he had decided to create the vibration gloves. But here came a big problem. You see, the gloves would always send a huge feedback that would hurt him. And so for the Shocker, he realized he needs some kind of protection around him while trying to use the gloves. And so he created a suit we all know as of today. Now, for me personally, I always hated that suit. But again, he needs that suit as a way to protect him. And so that is the quick origin of the Shocker. Now, in later books down the road, you had different writers being able to add on to the origin of the Shocker, but for the sake of today's video, that is his origin story. But now we jump back over to Peter Parker, and when we do, it's Peter Parker picking up his Aunt May from the subway station. Now, for Peter, he's kind of worried about telling Aunt May that he's going to be moving out. But then you have Aunt May tell Peter Parker that she's also moving out because Mary Jane's aunt is feeling lonely because Mary Jane had also moved out. And so for Aunt May, she had decided to go ahead and move in with Mary Jane's aunt. And so for Peter, that's great news because now he has the ability to move in with Harry Osborn. Now, you do have Peter and Mary Jane head over to a nearby place where you have Peter, Mary Jane, Harry, Flash, and also Gwen Stacy being able to hang out. Now, we do learn that Flash will soon be leaving for the army, but also is Peter telling Harry, like, hey man, listen, my aunt is down with the idea of me moving out and moving in with you. And so just like that, Harry and Peter are now going to be roommates. Now, while you had those two characters talking, we also get reminded that for Peter Parker, he's kind of stuck in the middle. He has feelings for Mary Jane, but he also has feelings for Gwen Stacy as well. But the problem is right now, he just can't focus on either one of them because he is Spider-Man. Now, for Peter, he wants to go ahead and leave to hopefully find the Shocker. But the problem is, though, while he's leaving, he has no idea that he's being tailed. Now, we also get reminded that this story was written by Stan Lee. And I love Stan Lee, I do. But sometimes stories get a tad bit too goofy for me. So, for example, you have Frederick right now trying to fall behind Peter Parker, right? And so for Frederick, he believes that he now realized that Peter is Spider-Man. And so you have Peter being able to trick Frederick into believing that there are two people currently talking, Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And then he was able to kind of rig up a system where it's Spider-Man supposedly swinging away, but in reality, it's just a suit of Spider-Man swinging away and Peter Parker staying behind. So that Frederick will not believe that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. It is a good idea, but at the same time, it's so goofy for me. But either way, the story continues on. But after being able to do that, you didn't have Peter Parker go ahead and take off his sling. Now, his arm still is sore, but he feels like his arm should be good enough to use against a battle against the Shocker. Now, while you have Peter just going around town, he overhears the Shocker once again trying to rob another bank. And so that allows Peter Parker to once again battle against the Shocker. Now, I just want to say that back in the day, when it came to Marvel Comics for Spider-Man, they kind of made sure that all the different bad guys were somewhat at least able to go toe-to-toe with Peter Parker, to be an actual challenge, even though the Shocker, for me personally, should not be really a big challenge for Spider-Man. And so back then, it was the opposite. He was the actual challenge for Peter. And so as the battle goes on, and it does seem like Spider-Man might lose the battle, you have Peter realize that for the Shocker, he has to hit a certain button to be able to use the gloves. And so you have Peter go ahead and web up the hands of the Shocker. And so now the Shocker cannot hit the buttons, which then allows Peter to get close enough to knock out the Shocker with one single punch. And so you have the book truly end on the note where you have Peter Parker go back home, he get his stuff, he moves out from Aunt May's home, and he moves in with Harry Osborn. And so yeah, that was the first appearance of the Shocker in Marvel Comics. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see you on the next comic book video. Later.